Hello, Hoosick Falls. This is Rob Allen, Village Mayor, and if you can give me a few minutes, I want to talk about the really important village meeting that will be held this Wednesday, October 23rd, at Hoosick Falls Central School to discuss the Municipal Water Supply Study and what it means for our future alternative water supply possibilities. I know that we as a community are probably quite tired from the PFOA topic of the last several years, but I really want to impress upon you the monumental importance of this meeting and of the new water source. This is going to set the trajectory of our village for literally the next century. It is so essential that we as a community understand what is in the report, what our options are, and how this decision of a new water source will be made. The Municipal Water Supply Study was created to list out all of our options for a future water source and to have the community speak up as to which option it feels is best for the long term for the village. Work on this began a few years ago, and this is the first public presentation of the results. And you may be asking, why should I read this? Why do I need to go to a meeting? The report itself is very long, and I'll shortly break down how the report works to help you review it. But this report, this discussion, will drive everything about a new water source. We must understand the report as a community so that we can voice our opinion. The meeting is intended to help residents understand what the report says and gives you a chance to ask questions. Now, here's how Wednesday's event will work. The main part of the evening is the presentation at 6 p.m. After a few welcome messages from local leaders and an introduction to the Community Participation Working Group, we will get a brief update from DOH and DEC on a few topics, and then it will be turned over to representatives of the responsible parties who were ordered by the state to create this report. After the presentation, there will be a question and answer time. The school is providing some simple snacks after the presentation, so thank you, Hoosick Falls Central, for opening your doors to us and for providing some food. Additionally, there will be availability sessions before and after the presentation from 3 to 5 and again from 7:30. During this time, there will be many tables set up in the gymnasium. Each table will have a topic of interest and a few officials so that you can ask questions and have conversations with them. Perhaps you want to know more about some of the Superfund investigations that are going on, or perhaps you want to discuss more in detail how the second blood testing results worked and how it came back, or perhaps you have other questions. Maybe you want to dive into more details on a particular part of this water supply study report. These tables are for that purpose. Come and go as you please during the times and engage whoever you would like. Additionally, the state has a comment period open through the middle of November. The purpose of this is twofold. First, to hear what people think in terms of the water options. The second is to hear what people think about the report itself. Is there something you disagree with, something that doesn't make sense, something that you want vetted out further? The state wants to know. At the end of the comment period, they will direct the companies to make further adjustments to the report as needed. This completed report, as well as the feedback from the community, will be a big driver in the final decision. Now, the overall purpose of Wednesday's meeting is not to choose a water supply now. In fact, the report doesn't even have a recommendation, nor do state agencies. We are in a process that will eventually lead to a choice of a new water supply, and this report, the presentation, the comments after, is a huge part of this process. Wednesday's presentation will explain the report and give us a chance to ask questions about it. It is the next big step in the new water source process, and I'm sorry to have to put this burden on you again, but we want to make sure the community is fully educated on everything so the right decision can be made, whatever that decision may be. Now, I want to talk to you about the report itself. First off, it's available online in a few places. It's on the DEC website, and you can very easily get to that by doing a Google search for Municipal Water Supply Study, Hoosick Falls. It will definitely come up. The DEC page has several links to the various parts of the report. On the Village of Hoosick Falls website, we have provided additional links, and with DEC's permission, I reorganized the files a bit to help guide you in the parts that you may want to read or maybe what you want to avoid. Whether you're just looking for the basics, maybe you want to read the executive summary, or you really want to dive into the weeds, all of the options are explained there on the website. Now, if you are as crazy as I am and wanted to print out the whole report, including appendices A through E, It's a lot of pages and it will end up looking like this. To save you the trouble, here's a quick guide to all of the sections, and I'll reference the files on the Village of Hoosick Falls website so that you know exactly which part of the report you want to read. The main section is the actual municipal water supply report. If you want the basic quick summary, look for the Summary of Alternatives page, which is both on its own link on the website. It's also page 53 of the report or page 57 of the PDF file. This lists out the 5 alternatives, gives a brief breakdown of each. One note, it's not very printer friendly yet, and the print will come out very tiny, and I've asked DEC to get us a version that's a little bit easier to print out, so when that comes, I'll post that link as well. The report itself begins with the executive summary, which is 15 pages long. This is the brief overview of the process, the alternatives, and the costs, and it should be the first thing you read. The rest of the report goes much more into detail in each of the alternatives and all the processes. I would recommend you read it all, but if you're crunched for time, dive into the sections you think are the most important. There is a separate file for the report's figures. I have separated this mainly because it really needs to be printed out in color, where the previous section is fine to print in black and white. The report produced 5 distinct options for a water supply. I'm going to explain them briefly without any comments or opinions. Alternative 1 is a new groundwater source. This is located about a mile south of the current wells and would involve 2 wells that would take water from a different aquifer than the current wells do. The water would be piped to the village, treated, and then used. Alternative 2 is a new surface water source, which really is the Tomhannock Reservoir option. This would pull directly from the Tomhannock, be piped to the village in about a 13 to 14 mile line of water piping, treated, and then used. Alternative 3 would be to connect to an existing public water supply. In this case, the only option would be the Troy City system, and the connection would be in Cropseyville. This would require 18 miles of water lines, would be treated, and then used. Alternative 4 is the no change option, where we would simply stay in the existing GAC filter system and the existing wells, drawing from the currently contaminated aquifer. Alternative 5 is a bit of a strange one. It's actually Alternative 4 plus an IRM, an interim remedial measure, that is intended to pull and treat contaminated water from near the McCaffrey Street site as a way to prevent contamination from being pulled towards the current well field. Just so you know, this IRM is already implemented and operational. Now, as I said before, there are 5 appendices in the report, and it's your call to read, skim, or skip them based on how much you want to get into the weeds. Appendix A and B are brief. The first is the private well results in the town of Hoosick, and the second is a list of public water systems in New York State and in the country that use GAC treatment. Appendix C is another report. It's the hydrogeological investigation. This is the fuller explanation on the possibility of Alternative 1, the new local groundwater source. This is where they explain everything that went into looking into this alternative, including sampling results on the water from the 2 production wells, as well as a bunch of monitoring wells in the area. This is definitely also worth a read. Now, there are 10 separate attachments to this report, and this is where you really get into the weeds on this option. Just know that attachment 4 is enormous. It's hundreds of pages, and it's the data usability summary reports. Appendix D covers all of the lab results for sampling at Alternative 2, the Tomhannock Reservoir. This is another important section to look through to see the type and quality of the Tomhannock Reservoir water. From the earlier part of the main report, you will read that there was no PFOS chemicals detected in finished water from the Tomhannock, but there were some small amounts of some PFOS chemicals in a few of the samples taken. Definitely worth looking into. Finally, Appendix E covers the cost for each of these 5 alternatives. It's only a few pages long, but definitely something you should look over. I'm sure many of you want to know more about costs, and in particular, who will pay for it. So hopefully this gives you a bit of a primer on how to read the report. I would request that you look over this report the way many of us are, without a decision already made, open to what picture the data and the science paints. Keep track of your questions and comments about the report itself. I know I have a bunch of comments for me, and this will allow you later to bring it back to the state. Thank you for watching this, and I hope that you will be able to attend Wednesday's meeting at the school at 6 p.m. In the auditorium. This is the next big step in our journey, and it is a very important one. I hope this video has helped, and I hope to see you on Wednesday. Thank you.